We're really happy to have Maysa with us today as part of the Healing series. Maysa Daw is an indie musician, actress, singer-songwriter, and the latest member of DAM, the first Palestinian hip-hop band, and also a member of Kallemi, and she's also a solo performer and writer. Maysa is known for her varied musical styles. She organically fuses different genres in her solo work and explores personal, interpersonal, and collective experiences, stemming from her own complex view of reality. Maysa is inspiration to many women and people around the world, and we're so happy to have her here today. Maysa, please tell us about how you came into music and what was it like growing up in Haifa?
Hi, everybody. أول إشي, it's very, very nice to be here. Thank you for having me. And thank you for everybody for joining and listening. And okay, well, I was into music pretty much since I was born. I never thought that I'm actually going to do anything else. So it was always obvious for me that this is what I'm going to do. And I grew up in a very artistic house as well, an artistic home. So it was easier for me to just swoosh into that kind of world. And I grew up in Haifa, as you said, and in Haifa, at least when I was growing up and until now, it's a lot easier than other places to be able to think about doing these things, because in Haifa in general is a very chill city when you compare it to the rest of Palestine, or you know. So it's really easy for me, and I never had to talk about politics until I was like 13, 14, and I had that privilege to have to talk about it, to not have it be a big part of my life, and it's a huge privilege for me. So it was always kind of like this artistic atmosphere for the good and bad. Yeah.
I can imagine. Ta'al is the first song that you wrote in Arabic, and you used to write in English before. Why did you decide to start singing in Arabic? And also, can you talk about the use of different languages in your songs?
Well, I always used to write in English because I used to listen to music in English. I have two, we're four sisters, but I'm the third one. So I had two older sisters growing up. My parents would used to listen to Arabic music, tarab, all the time, but that wasn't interesting for me. And my sisters were like the coolest people on earth for me. They were listening to, Michael Jackson and pop and Backstreet Boys and all of that British American kind of pop. And this is what I was into at that point until I got more into alternative rock and everything. But basically, everything was in English. So I started writing in English. And then at some point, it just became like it, for me, it's sort of like lost the reason. Like I didn't really feel that I have a reason to be writing in English. And I felt that I could be doing something that a lot of people are doing a lot better than me, and that's something that is unique to me is my language. And then I started to write, and until today it's a lot harder for me to write in Arabic than it is in English. I think because it's also sort of, when you speak a different language, you automatically become a little bit of a different person. You express yourself differently, you do everything differently. And I guess for me in English, there's something less of hudud, less of like borders that I put for myself when I'm writing. But then that was the moment that I said, okay, I'm gonna be writing in Arabic more. And I do sometimes still write in English. And I was always saying, when I want to say something that I want non-Arab speakers to hear, then I say it in English. But then with time, I became less and less interested in talking about things that non-Arab people like. For me, to them, I feel like more and more that I do want to talk to Arab people and people that I feel, going back to growing up in Haifa. Yeah, it's a lot of good things going on in Haifa, but one of the difficulties of being here is that it's a huge bubble. And that's why I said that it's good and bad, because growing up in Haifa, you have the opportunity to do arts as much as you want, but at the same time, you're so disconnected from everything that is going on around. Also in Palestine, yani, I didn't even know really know about Gaza and West Bank until I was 13, 14. And it's crazy for me thinking about it now. Yani, it's crazy for me that I am living here and I was able to do that. And in school, they barely teach us something interesting in Arabic. So it's always Hebrew and English and all of that and all of that. So I kind of like lost my connection to my culture, my connection to my language, my connection to everything. And you know, although my dad is like a huge, very proud Arab man with all the difficulties in it, so he was always trying to pull us more into the language. But خلاص, I was يعني growing up, teenager, I wanted to do things my own way, and it doesn't matter. So it kind of became like more of a statement for me that I want to be reconnected with everything that is Arab, because I felt so disconnected from things all my life. And at some point, I just stopped writing in English without taking a decision about it. Just,
Yeah.
it wasn't that interesting for me anymore.
I completely understand that. And talking about being disconnected from the rest of both Palestine and the Arab world, Ta'al, the song you wrote, is actually about a love story where you were with a guy from Beit Lahem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about how that separation influenced the song?
Well, Ta'al, I think, is the first song that I ever wrote in Arabic. I think so. I'm not sure if it was because Fi'ad or Ta'al, but let's say it's the first song that I just got released out of me in like a few minutes. And basically what happened there is I was in a relationship and totally in love with a guy from Bethlehem. And I was 18, I think, then 18, 19, something like that. And I was living in Haifa and he was living in Bethlehem. So he couldn't come visit me here. I could only go visit him there and all of that. All of these complications that can happen between that sort of relationship. And it was just before I started studying music and I got Cubase, the music program, and I got a new laptop, my first laptop, everything downloaded. And I just had to try and work with Cubase. So I just went inside Cubase, I pushed record, didn't even have a mic, didn't have anything from the computer's mic. And I just put record and I held my guitar and I started playing these two songs, these two chords. And I just sort of sang it and never edited anything in it in my life. It's just, and it's the only song that I wrote like this, but it just came from such a pure and not even thinking that I want to write a song, you know. I was just so feeling this whole relationship and how I'm feeling about it. And to me, to a lot of people, I get asked if I feel it, like if it's a sad song or not. And for me, it's a very happy song in a way, because it was like something that when I sing it, even until today, it's one of my favorite songs to sing. Because when I sing it, I actually feel that I'm on a trip, you know, in between stars. And I love that song. So this is how it came to be.
It is really a very beautiful song. If you haven't listened to it, I think you should. So as a Palestinian who's based in Haifa, not only are you disconnected from other Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, but you're also disconnected largely from Palestinians in the diaspora and the Arab world because of the difficulties of travel. How do you think that's impacted or limited you and your musical career? I'm thinking about your potential collaborations with other artists who were based elsewhere in the Arab world.
Well, I think collaborations, it has a lot less effect than being able to travel. Like we had offers in Lebanon countless times, but never could make it because I have an Israeli passport. So my nationality as written in the passport is Israeli. So I cannot go basically to any other Arab countries other than Egypt, which is still a bit complicated to get there, and to Jordan. I think it had a lot to do because, first of all, it's a very small country, and being in this country, you know, it's even a smaller minority, and doing music here is also, you know, this very small bubble, and it's even hard to get when you have like small crowds in your own country. It's even harder to get crowds from the rest of the world. And what I realized with time also, that a lot of people from the Arab world do not know that there is such thing as Palestinians living inside the Israeli borders. So to a lot of people, we're kind of non-existent. And to a lot of people that do know about it, they don't want to take the chances by working with someone that is Israeli, you know, like that thing happens a lot in Egypt, let's say. It's one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah.
So definitely, I don't know, I don't feel that it affects collaborations with other artists, but by performing and having big crowd and having everything, of course it has so much effect, because we're basically inside this small place that we cannot get out of. Like, I mean, we can get out of, but not to the neighboring countries. And it's really hard to get the word out, and it's really hard to build the crowd that you want, or the audience that you want, when you cannot reach them physically.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I understand. It's just a very sad reality that I think comes with and part of the baggage of being Palestinian. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Maysa, we know that you play many different genres and you play many different instruments, and your music takes many shapes and forms. So can you tell us a little bit about how you're able to juggle between such diverse types of music, and how you've been trained to be able to do that as well?
I just do it. I never really thought about it. Let's say it like that. Like, when I started doing music, I just wanted to do music. I just wanted to sing. It doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter when, it doesn't matter what. Since I started, I had amazing opportunities, alhamdulillah. I was blessed to have a lot of people around that I can work with. Starting with Bruno Cruz and Wala Sped, I started with Ministry of Dubki, doing kind of like, you know, reggae Dubki kind of things. I was always doing my own thing, but still not releasing my own songs. And actually, Wala Isbet, he's the one that wrote Bikaffi Aad with me. He kind of opened up the way for me to be able to write my own songs as well. And it was the first song that got known, let's say, before even released by studio version. And so I got with them, and through that, Tut Ard reached out to me, and I performed with them a little bit. And then Dam reached out to me, and I was like, yeah, bring it on. I can do it. You know, I want to do it. I want to experience. And I'm the type of person that can listen to basically every genre of music and enjoy everything from jazz to like the cheesiest pop. I can enjoy mainly everything, and I enjoy singing everything. So it's, for me, it's like a field that I really always wanted to experience and not have myself boxed in a way. And I even have that discussion between me and myself when I wanna write my own music, because sometimes I writing these really weird songs, and sometimes I writing like the most popish songs, and I'm like, does that even make sense for the audience? Can I do that when I'm doing so many different things? Can I even do different genres when it's my solo work? And I'm still in that discussion.
Yeah, but that's wonderful. That's being true to yourself and allowing yourself to live the creative experience fully and completely.
Yeah, I really do love that, actually. It's one of the things I enjoy most, is being able to play around with so many things, and not only being able to play with it, like I did these things and always had people that knew what they were doing. Like Wala and Bruno knew what they wanted to do with Dubki music. They knew what dub is, what Dubki is, what, you know, what reggae is. And I was just sort of like into that with people that can tell me or show me how to do it. The same with Dam. Like, I've never rapped before, yani. I never was a huge rap person before, you know. And the first time I was rapping was in Dam's Hanaa Wa Manaa album. So I had like the best counsels and supporters that I can have to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to take a step back and read a question that we received from Majdi Haroun. Do you think that the limitations you had in terms of environment strengthened and further polished your craft and your emotional charge behind your music?
Definitely. Really good question.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think being here and being born here and raised here is definitely a bless and a curse. Because, you know, it's really difficult and it can get really, really tiring. But at the same time, especially as an artist, I'm put into place, all artists, yeah, we're put, let's say like this, when in artists in general, doesn't matter where you're from, you're always kind of put in a situation where you have to think deeply about things, whether it's when you're writing a song and you want to know how to put it into the song, whether it's in interviews and the questions when you're like 17, 18 years old and people come ask you, okay, who are you? And then you need to know how to represent yourself at only 18 when you still don't know shit pretty much about the world, you know. So you're always, as an artist, you're always put into a place of thinking and knowing and needing to know or needing to have an answer, at least for me, you know. And coming from this place, it's always thinking about these things. And I know, like, even taking it like this, I know that a lot of shows that I have and a lot of support that I get, and especially shows abroad, are not because I do good music. It's because I'm a Palestinian woman that does music. And I'm very much aware of that because, you know, like I got invited to the United States. And when I got there, I realized that the people that invited me had no idea who I am. No idea. Yani they had the biography wrong. They had everything written wrong. They didn't even, they had just no idea, literally. But still, I was invited to play in the US and I did. So it was obvious for me that, okay, it's because of that. And this is something that used to bother me a lot. But today I think of it of, you know what, yalla, let's do it. If this is why you want to get me here, I'm going to get there and I'm going to do my thing on stage and I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about on stage and do all of that. So it's a very complicated reality, but it's very good for inspiration for songs. And it's very good to dig in deep and realize really who you are and what you do, and even, you know, reaching a place to say that I don't even know who I am and it's okay. Like that took me forever to say that it's okay that I still don't know who I am. And it's always questions. So I think being here definitely affects every aspect of my life.
Thank you for being so honest with us about it. And it's an interesting position to be in because it's being a Palestinian woman means you're compromised in so many ways, but also, yeah, it's nice to have these opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So from that, one of the initiatives that you're currently involved with is Kallemi, which is a women's only percussion group. Can you tell us a little bit about how you started that initiative?
Yeah. Oh, I missed them. Well, Kalimi started off, it was supposed to be like a one show kind of thing. It started in Palestine Music Expo, PMX. I think we met in 2018 for the first time. And it was just an initiative from Kaserne Basel in Switzerland. And they just wanted to do a collaboration between Swiss artists and Arab artists. And somehow they found their way into PMX. And they met with a few people and they chose us. We didn't even know each other before that. And so we are 4 women, 2 Palestinians, me and Reshan Haas, and Jasmine El-Bash. She's half Palestinian, half Swiss. She's living in Switzerland. And there's Jennifer Perez Lanefera. She's from Dominican Republic, but she was pretty much raised in Switzerland. And since she was 10, I think. And so anyway, they gave us 10 days and we found an apartment in Ramallah where we stayed for 5 days. And we had 10 days to build a full show from scratch without even knowing each other. So we found an apartment in Ramallah. We took all the equipment there. We didn't have a bass player. We didn't have a drummer. So we had to, you know, just figure things out. So I like to play percussion, but I never really played it on stage or, you know, other than just with myself. But I took all my percussion instruments and in 5 days we wrote 6 songs or 7 songs. And then went 5 days to Basel where we rehearsed, finished writing the lyrics, and then we had our first show on the 11th day, basically. And we just clicked so good, and it was such a good chemistry and such a good bond, also musically and also personally. And the show was over, and it was pretty obvious that we want to continue with that. And it went crazy from there, because like we didn't have anything recorded, we didn't have any music out, but still we played like 10 times in Switzerland in different places. We played in Canada, we played in Berlin, we played in so many places. We were supposed to play in Korea in June, but it got canceled because of COVID, and so many good things. And it also goes back to like being the Palestinian, being brought in because I'm a Palestinian woman. And I think part of that crazy success is that we are 4 women, 2 Palestinian, 1 Swiss, 1 Dominican. I mean, even I would be so tempted to go watch a show without even knowing the music, you know? So yeah, that's Kallemi in general. And we were supposed to start working on our EP actually, but it got delayed a few times as well because of COVID.
It must be so different for you to have so many different initiatives that you work on, and they're all so unique because you have Kallemi, which is like all women, but then you also recently joined DAM, and
Yes. It was the opposite. I joined DAM and then I joined Kallemi. So I'm like into totally boys group, you know, just creating for the first time with only women. It was just, oh, well, what is this? How do I not know this, you know? Yeah. With all my love and respect to DAM, yeah, they're like the loves of my life, yeah, but it's different. Sorry guys, it's so different.
I can imagine. Can you tell us about how you joined DAM and also what it's like? Because like you said, it's such a boy band and they've been around since 99, and they're really a pillar of hip hop music
Yeah.
and not just the Arab world, like in general. Since you joined, you've really been in the center of the band. If you look at the new album cover, it's, you know, your face is in the middle, and in the music videos, you're always standing in the middle, front and center.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. Well, I want to start by saying that I was such a huge DAM fan before I joined the group. I pretty much grew up on their music since 5th grade. I was like always, you know, I know all their songs by heart. And I remember one time I was in a show in a place that was called Backdoor in Haifa, and DAM was playing, and I was just in the crowd. And I was still in high school, and I already knew that I wanted to do music, and I was just standing there, and I was like, you know, everybody's jumping, and I'm just standing still looking at them and thinking, will I ever be good enough to do a song with them? Will I ever be good enough? I really want to be good enough to do a song with them. And then a few years later, I get a call from Tamar, and I'm the type of person that doesn't get really excited when something good is happening, because you know I still don't know what is going on, and not that I repress it or something. I just this is how I handle things. So I got a phone from Dam right after from Tamer, right after they released the Dabki al Qamar, Dabki on the Moon, their album, and they just wanted to have someone, a female voice on stage to sing the different parts that different artists sing in their album, because they had a lot of featuring. So, but they just wanted one person to be able to go on stage instead of bringing 7, 8 people every time for every show. And it started like that in 2012, and I was just only performing with them, not as a part of the group. And one day I get a call from Tamer, and he's like, listen, you've been performing with us for like 3 years, and we're always writing Dam and Maysa Daw, and we're going to be working on a new song soon, which is Min Inta, the first single that we released together. So what do you say you join the band and we just put Dam as in Maysa part of? And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And we did the song, and things, you know, just kind of rolled from there. And about being in the center, it's actually, yeah, it's still really weird for me. Some place, but yeah, I think Dam was always singing about women rights and issues that we have, and you know, feminism and all of that. And I think the main thing that changed is we still talk about it, but when you have a woman's voice talking about anything, it immediately becomes feminist. You know, even if you're saying, like, we have one song, it's called Yaweli, and I wouldn't call it a feminist song, but I have a sentence there which says, put your lips closer to mine before they shut our mouth. anyway, there's this thing. So for me, it's not really a political song, but and a feminist song. But the moment you have a woman saying that, it becomes a feminist song, sort of. Especially the place when we're coming to, when you know love is not a thing that you talk about and express freely about and all of that. And yeah, I guess this is just how things happened.
That's amazing. I wanted to add a question that we got in the comments from Haya Haddad. She says that your songs in general entail a lot of activism and they discuss taboos in Palestinian society, women's rights, and political challenges. Do you consider yourself an activist in the first place?
Well, yeah, this is actually one of the things that I find really hard. Used to, let's say, I'm over a big part of that. I think, well, I always considered myself an activist since I was 14, 15, not even in music, but in general in my daily life. And I always considered myself to be that. And that's why I started writing about these things, because these are things that are really important to me. But the side of that is that it kind of put me in a place where I didn't feel comfortable to talk about anything else other than activism, other than politics, other than feminism, other than, because between me and myself, and also how people projected it on me, some people, not everybody, of course, that it wasn't as important, or that it wasn't as good, or that why the hell are you talking about something that is not activism? You know, like what the hell are you doing a love song? It's so cheesy, it doesn't have a meaning, it doesn't. And only lately I've been writing more personal stuff. So I'm trying to balance between that, because definitely until some point most of my songs were like that, and most of them were because I really I believed in them. All of them because I believed in them, but hopefully now I will be able to release more and more songs and find the balance that is good for me, because even the activist songs is a part of my life. It's not that I bring something from the outside and bring it, and that's what I always said, and it's very, very true. But some point it just became that, hey, this is not the only thing that I am. I'm not only that. I have my personal views as well regarding many things, and I don't always do activism in my daily life, so I can write about that as well. And I'm just trying to find the balance between those two.
Yeah, of course. And I feel like you actually already do a great job at that, because a lot of your songs might not explicitly talk about something that you're protesting, but in a way they appear so naturally. And even going back to Ta'al, it's a love song,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day,
But
you're
so political.
Exactly. And
So political.
it's also something that a lot of people don't really know about. So what's it like working with Tamar and Mahmoud, and how do you decide on the topics that you want to sing about?
It's amazing working with them. Working on the album was one of the best things that happened to me in my life, really, because it brought up a lot of the things that I'm talking about in all of these thoughts that I have and how I want to express myself. Because for me, my strong side is the music and not the lyrics. And for them, their strong side is the lyrics, lyrics, lyrics. And it was such an interesting thing to try and bring the way that I write into the way that they write, and into the way that Dam writes, not them personally, but the Dam, how things go there. And I have to say, nothing from my verses was written by me alone. Where I wrote everything together. Some verses was written by Mahmoud, some verses were written by Tamer, and some of them we wrote together. And it was really, really, really interesting because, okay, I'm gonna share with you a story, okay? Emtan Joseph Yimma, which was the hit from the album, and it got, I don't know, maybe 3 million views up until now. I'm not sure. And when I first heard the beat and we started talking about it, I was like, guys, are you serious? You cannot be serious. We cannot do a song like this. Like, no, this is a big no. Like, no, we're not gonna do it. Because for me, I grew up when Damn were like, talking about politics and talking about, all of these things, and then suddenly it's like Enta and Joseph, it's so different. And that's where when I started to think about these stuff, because Tamer sat me down and he's like, dude, when was the last time that we were having a conversation and we talked about politics? And I'm like, I don't remember. It's like, okay, when was the last time that we sat down and talked a private conversation about whatever, activist thing? And I'm like, I don't remember. Like, okay, so you don't have to put that always into your songs when you're not that like that, like we talk about things that are not so important. Then it ended up being a very important song for me. But it was really interesting because just everything that I knew about how to write and how to express and how to produce, because it was also the first time that I write in a group and not by myself. And it just put everything that I knew on the side and told me, okay, release that and try this new thing. And it's opened up so many places for me. And we always had like it put us in a place that we always had these really deep conversations about every song. So it also gave me a lot of new interesting points of view about things that I never thought of. So it was not only musically so good for me, but personally it was such an important phase, because it really, I felt that I grew up after that in a way. And they're so supportive, and I love having them in my life in general. So everything is like, so euphoric, hard, very hard, but euphoric in a way.
That's so nice to hear. Thank you for sharing that. And it is an excellent song. I mean, I've had it stuck in my head all day long. I think I listened to it a few times driving around. I'm going to ask you about one of the other songs on the album, Je sais te comme. Would you mind telling us what the story is behind this song?
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, I'm gonna start with the inspiration for the song, and it was a book. It's a book called Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I really hope I'm pronouncing his name right. And the book, for those that don't know it, the book talks about living in a Black body in the USA and what it means to just living in that shell. So Tamer was reading that book in the time that we were writing the album. And one day he came back with like a bunch of copies and gave everybody a copy. And he told me, okay, read this, highlight what you think the things that I feel most connected to, and let's try and do something about it. So I highlighted so it's such a good book. Everybody should read that book. It's insane. And we took the inspiration of how he expresses living in a Black body in the United States. And we took that to an extra step, living in a woman's body, in an Arab woman's body under occupation inside, the Israeli borders, and what that means, and the political side of it and the social side of it. And I really love that song because I think it took so much anger out of me. And yeah, it's pretty much about living in an Arab Palestinian woman's body in this place that we live in.
I really love that. There's one line which I'd like to share. So we say هذا المطبخ مش بس إلي بس هذا الزيت والزعتر والعكوب إلي, which means this kitchen is not only mine, and that's obviously a hint at the patriarchy within our society, but these ingredients that are so representative of Palestinian society and Palestinian land are mine. And that's talking about cultural appropriation and basically the oppression and the limitation against us being able to be on our lands. And I love
and not only that, like we chose Zatar and Akub because basically Maramiye, Zatar and Akub, you can go to jail if you pick them up in the wild. And the only people that do that are Palestinians. So it's such a huge thing, and it's a very interesting topic. My friend who is a lawyer, he was working on it, and actually after he worked on it, it was such a big deal everywhere on TV and everything. They changed the law and we were able to pick, but I think after that they did the sort of things that it's not really legal, but it's sort of still a gray area. But the thing is that since the 90s, I think they made za'atar illegal to pick, saying that it's a rare plant and that if we pick it up, then we ruin it and it will go extinct. And the same thing as akub. And like literally nobody of the Israelis know what akub and za'atar is. And akub is something so specific. You know, za'atar, yeah, okay, a lot of people come from Egypt and Morocco and all of that, and Tunis and all of that. But akub, it literally grows maybe in like 2 places in Palestine, and even a lot of Palestinians don't know about it. So only Palestinians are the one that pick up these things and use it, you know. And so that was a political statement, not because it's only a symbol, because it literally, like, people aged 90s would have to pay fines of like $15,000 or 15,000 shekels to because they went and picked like 2 bags of akub. So that is why we really chose these za'atar and akub specifically, because it literally is something, you know, that we need to handle here. And also, but we talk about the politics. There are more than once, because there's also the line that, like, if I resist, I have double of your responsibilities, because when you resist, you hurt their Zionism, and this is directed to the men, to the Arab men, that if they resist, they hurt their Zionism. But if I resist, I also hurt their manlyhood. So it's also there. It's playing between both places.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. That's really interesting. It's very sad as well that we're being denied so much access to things that are historic and just part of our DNA.
Yeah, but you can. I just want to mention that if anybody's interested in the whole story about it, the guy that was working on it, the lawyer, is called Rabi' Aghbariyi, and you can find a lot of things online if anybody's interested in digging deeper into the za'atar and akub story.
And yeah, that definitely speaks to how much a Palestinian woman has to carry, because you're dealing with your own internal struggles within our own community and within our own society, as well as things that are larger than that, and the oppression and the liberation. And so it's a lot. It's a lot to be carrying and
very much a lot. Yeah.
What role did society play in your career? I feel like it's so common in Arabic society where there's so many eyes on women and judgment, and in a way it makes people self-censor. So how did you deal with that?
Still dealing still dealing with that. Well, I'm gonna start off and saying I'm very, very, very lucky, because I have the most supportive parents a person can ask for. They're very supportive, always there, you know, I always talk to my parents also about the songs and what they think about it before I release them and all of that. And we did that with all of the songs of Dam's album as well. But as much as you grow with that confidence, still when you start being known to people and you're used to doing whatever you want and it's okay, but suddenly people start having more comments about you and yourself and what you can do and what you cannot do and what this and what that. So it's a lot of censorship, a lot of censorship still until today. And today I write a lot more freely than I used to, but still a lot of times I find myself not even writing the full sentence and deleting it before I even write it, because I say, but this is too much. I don't think people will handle that, or I think I will get too much backlash. And sometimes there are backlashes of, like, you know, just receiving comments, but sometimes it can actually get tough and being censored. And like, take even Tamer, for example, Tamer Nafar. He had so many problems with Zionism from the Arab people, from extremely religious people. You know, Israelis ban him from doing shows here and there just because he talked about Palestine in a way or said something, you know. And at the same time, a lot of very religious communities, Palestinian communities, canceled countless of his shows because to them he talks about sex, about love, about, I don't know, alcohol, about many things. So you get censored in everything that you do. And a lot of times the backlash that you get is small and you can do it, but a lot of times it could get a lot more extreme than that. So I'm still trying to find the balance, and I'm trying to say more and more and more and more that like whatever I do, I'm not gonna be in real danger, hopefully. So I'm trying more and more to like really just say what I want to say, you know. But it's tough.
I can imagine. And it's so easy for people to get to you, like just through on Instagram. They have so much access to sending a lot of negative comments as well.
Yeah. And you know, I grew up always saying, you know, I don't care about what people think and I do my own thing. And I always did my own thing. But there's like this thing inside that, yeah, you do care about what other people think, you know. And I've come such a long way, no doubt, such a long way with these things that right now I don't really care about. Like sometimes I do, and sometimes people can still get on my nerve, but there's so many people on IG that I don't think how people can even allow themselves to talk like that to another person, you know. But that's not the main thing that really can hurt my feelings or something, because I learned with time, like I've been doing this for years, so I've learned with time how to deal with my own anger and not give those people space. But still, sometimes it still can hit you where it hurts.
Of course. We have a question in the chat. How do you handle the backlash and the negative comments?
Well, I started actually doing this thing on Instagram. I don't always do it, but where I share stories of like people on my inbox that say like the most horrible thing, whether it's sexual assault or whether it's, you know, whatever, all the weird things that I get in my inbox. And I started putting those as on my stories and just deleting the name and just writing the hashtag محيت اسمك احتراما لأمك. I deleted your name respectfully to your mother. So I wouldn't show the name of the people. I would just show the message. And sometimes I would reply and put my reply as well. And sometimes I would just ignore and just put the message that they send. And a lot of times I would start a discussion about these things with people online. And with time, you start realizing that you can just lift a finger and someone is gonna come and tell you, hey, you didn't lift your finger right. Your finger should be like this and not like this. You know, it doesn't matter what you're gonna do. A lot of people are gonna be really mean, really nasty, but at the same time, like a trillion more people are gonna be very supportive. And even if they don't agree with you, a lot of people do know how to, and I really respect those people that can tell you that they don't agree with you, but still have a conversation about it and still do it respectfully, you know, to the other person. And then with time, just the backlash and the negative comment that you get becomes less and less and less important. And with time, as you grow, you know, I really feel how I've been accepting myself more lately and what I am and who I am and who I want to be or who I'm becoming and all of that, and just being really, really comfortable in the place that I'm in, even if it's not the place that I want to be, but just learning myself and knowing more about myself. And I've became so comfortable in that place and so comfortable with my body and so comfortable with my thoughts and so comfortable with a lot of things that it just doesn't matter anymore. Like, as I said, of course there are times that people can get on my nerves, but mostly it's like it really doesn't matter. It really makes no change whatsoever. Nothing. So yeah.
You're absolutely right, and it's important to be able to shut all the noise.
Yeah. It takes practice, but you can do it. And every once in a while, of course, I need to take like a week or two off social media. My soul requires that every once in a while to also be able to cleanse a little bit, because it can get extreme at times.
Absolutely. So one thing we're curious about is, who do you write your music for? Who do you have in mind? And we have a related question from Nur Turkmani, and she asks, who is your audience? Or if you're writing lyrics, what faces or spaces naturally come up?
Oh, I like that one. What place naturally comes up is the personal place that I'm in. And a lot of time I would just write to myself. A
Mm,
lot of times I don't have anything to say to anybody but myself at this moment. And I do that, but it changes all the time because it depends about the subject and the thing that I want to talk about. And if I'm pissed about society, I'm gonna write and the people that I'm pissed about, I would have those people in mind when I'm writing and tell them what I want to say to them. And sometimes no, I would want to say I'm pissed from society, but I want to talk to all the people that are like me that are pissed from society, and talk to myself and them at the same time and say, you know what, chill, it's all good, or whatever I want to say to them. Yeah. And so it really, really depends from song to song, and depends on the subject that I want to write about. But definitely the place that comes naturally is whatever I like. If I hold a pen and pencil right now, the first things that are going to come out is what I'm feeling right now. And what are the things that I'm thinking about. That's the most natural thing to me.
That's so inspiring. And it's amazing to get to see how you go into your creative practice. So, we also wanted to talk to you about something that you shared on Instagram about being a Theta healer. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, of course. Well, such a huge thing to talk about, but I'm gonna say just shortly that, well, basically theta healing is, there's the theta wave that we go into, that the person's brain goes into just before they fall into deep sleep, just in the beginning of when you start to dream. And it's basically the wave of the subconscious. So what is done in theta healing is a meditation where you can practice to be able to get into that brainwave when you are awake. You're with your eyes closed and you're meditating, but you're not falling asleep, and you can reach that place. And what it does, it opens up the subconscious, which is 88%, by the way. Like 12% is our conscious, and everything else that is going on in our body and the thoughts that we have, the pain that we have, the traumas that we have, are things that are in the subconscious that we're not even aware of. So what it does, it brings you to the subconscious. It makes you able to ask questions and be able to really dig in and find the root cause of why the person has that disease, or why the person has that pain, or why and this. So you can talk straight to the subconscious, and at the same time it opens up all the channels, so you're in direct communication with the creation, with the universe. Basically, if you want to go into a more spiritual side of theta healing, you can use that to do so many things. And you can do that to be able to connect with your guardian angels, or with your guidance, or with your higher self, and non-stop opportunities from there. You can even connect with ghosts and talk to dead people. It's pretty much, it opens up everything, pretty much everything, yani. And well, the person that started that, and she's still going, her name is Viana Stable, and she wrote a book about theta and started teaching the method. And every once in a while she does a new book. And when you go more and more and more and more into theta, you can actually start moving things with your mind. That happened. That actually happened, and I'm aspiring to get there as well. But what I'm mainly using it now is to know what is inside of me, and to try and understand why I'm having these blocks, why I'm having these things, why I can't heal a specific thing. And I'm still very pretty new about it, and with this whole thing, but I'm practicing more and more, and it changes a person. This thing really changes a person. I look at everything differently, in a way, from that point, from when I started doing that. So yeah, that's pretty much the Theta Healing, like in very short sentences. But you can still find a lot more information about it, and I would really suggest to every person to try this thing. Not even learning, just do one session with a person and see what this thing brings, because it's so surprising and so inspiring.
I'm sold, Maysa.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Maysa, I wanted to ask you as well. So you said at the start that you always wanted to be in music, and this is something that you've known ever since you were very young. But at what point did you decide that you also wanted to have this journey with healing and specifically to pursue that healing?
Well, Theta Healing specifically happened fast. I was on this trip in nature and I had such an amazing time, and I was telling my friend about it, and I was telling her about a deep connection that I had with a tree there. And she was like, you know what, you can, like, there are ways to learn how to do that more. And she's a very good friend of mine, amazing person. And she says, I teach this thing. And apparently she told me about it like about 2 years ago. And I didn't give it any attention at all because it wasn't relevant at the time. And that moment when she told me was like 2 days after my trip in nature. I was camping and it was like, yes, this is what I want to do. Let's do it. And the week after, I was already into the course and studying it. But it goes back to way before actually the Theta Healing itself. And I've always had this spiritual side of me that I always liked to connect. And like I've always been walking barefoot ever since I know myself for no reason. And with time, I started realizing what it did to me and how it affected me and all of these things. And I think the moment that I knew that I wanted to get more and more into that world is when I realized that I don't want to accept the diseases that lived in my body, and that the medical teams and doctors and everybody told me that I cannot heal this. And I didn't want to accept that. And that's where everything really started. And I started digging a lot deeper into that world.
That's so powerful and so inspiring, honestly.
So good. It's amazing, really.
We have a few questions in the chat, so we're just going to jump around a bit. We have a question from Sultan, who was asking how different or similar is the hip hop music scene for women versus men?
Oof. Well, for some reason, there seems to be less of a spotlight on women in rap because, like, even for me, I was not aware of, like, I know countless male rappers, and not all of them are good, I have to say, with respect to everybody. But I didn't know, like, until Sotek, the campaign that Spotify did, if you heard about that. So they did this playlist with only women from the Arab world, feeding all genres. And a lot of them were rappers. And I was listening to the playlist and I was like, shit, they're so good. How did I not know about them? So many good names, really amazing artists. And I don't know why there seems to be less of a spotlight on these people, on like female artists rather than men artists. But I don't know. I would say that there's a lot of people doing that, and a lot of amazing musicians. So if you don't know about them, just go check them out. I would say Celtic is the best place to start, and from there just dig on. I don't know, so many good artists that I can think about. I don't know if there's like a difference of more of like between them that I can speak of other than that, because I don't know. It's also hard for me to think about being for me personally, the first time that I realized what is the difference between being an artist or a female artist was when we released Min Inta in 2016 with Dam. And yeah, so I wouldn't know how to say like the difference between the music itself. There's not much difference actually. Like when you talk a lot of trap artists, a lot of hip hop artists, a lot of it's different because the things that we experience are very different than the things that men experience, but at the same time it's so very similar. yeah, so I guess the only thing I have to say is go listen to them. It's so good. Filuka just released an album lately, and if you don't know her, you should. She's so good.
That's
My
an
God,
excellent album, yeah.
I've been addicted to her
Yeah,
songs.
me too.
God, yeah.
There's an interesting technical question from Emnian. How do you approach composing and writing in Arabic with a Western musical background?
I just don't think about it, I guess, because, yani, for me, the Western type of music comes more naturally to me, sadly. I mean, I love it, yeah, not sadly, but sadly because Arabic music doesn't come as naturally to me. But yeah, this is just, I just take my guitar, and how it usually goes is that I take my guitar and I just start playing around or on the piano and just like find interesting combinations of chords and then just start mumbling on it without even having words to say. And a lot of times I would just go, I'm playing something and I go, na, 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 and then I was like, okay, what is that word? It sounds like ansak. Okay, what can I write about it? And a lot of times it goes like this, because melodies comes a lot more natural for me than lyrics. And with lyrics, I take my time because I need, I think and rewrite and think and rewrite and do all of that. But yeah, I think I don't think about really what is the type of music that I'm doing at the moment. I just sing what feels like.
What's coming up next for you?
Who? Okay, well, I'm working on a lot of new music actually, but I'm taking my sweet time with it. Although sometimes I think that I shouldn't take my sweet time with it, but I am. I'm working with a close friend and an amazing producer in drumming. His name is Isa Khouri Jibus. So there's a lot of things to come. Also a few collaborations here and there, but mainly my main focus is on my solo music. And you will be hearing about it in the upcoming few months, hopefully. I'm still fresh and still, with sketches and all of that, but it'll get there. It'll get there soon. So hoping by mid 2021 I would release a few songs at least.
That's so exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's been a really long time since I did my solo work. So like last thing I released was 2017 for my solo stuff, which I finished writing in 2015.
Wow.
So now, it's a very different attitude, very different sounds, very different thing. I'm mainly still trying to find, how I bring it organically without thinking about it too much. So it's been interesting.
I really can't wait to hear your new music. I've been listening to all of your old songs on repeat this whole week. And also, I hope that we can see more music from Kallemi because that's beautiful.
I hope so. Thank you. I really hope so. We were supposed to, but yeah, COVID. Hopefully soon. Really, hopefully soon.
Thank you so much, Maysa, for joining. It was such a fun
you.
conversation today.
Yeah, I really had fun. Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for coming.